Okay, here today, it's actually the next day. Had some, I don't know if you can see it back there, but very dark skies today. And it's very wet around here, so it rained all last night. And it rained this morning, and it's going to rain this afternoon. But I had a short window of opportunity to actually go ahead and prepare the top and the bottom as far as for length and width, which would be 3x7. So for my semi-compact workbench, as opposed to 3x6. I'm wondering if, I forget exactly, I was on a website last night looking, probably YouTube videos actually, and somewhere along the lines, maybe Stumpy Numbs, that they mentioned that a typical size for a workbench these days, as opposed to historically, is more along the line of 3x6. I'm sure, you know, Ron and others have done their research on that. I arbitrarily just made a decision in that I wanted really the 4x8, or yeah, 4x8 workbench 2, and I really don't have space for it. But I do have enough space for a 7-foot in the aisleway. That extra foot isn't going to matter one way or the other. It's just going to occupy the aisleway of my trailer. And then when I pull it out, I'd still have that larger work surface, but I wouldn't have to have two sections. And the 8-foot may be a little more problematic, I don't know, because it's only in the aisleway, but two sections I think was really the deterrent there. And a 3x8, I just don't know. But 3x6, I just had that extra foot. I've got the materials, it's not any big deal. Now I'm committed to it though. And so if there's a reason, a researched reason why that 3x7 is going to be an issue, why 3x6 is some, you know, like a magic number, I guess I'll find out. But I can't alter it now, in that I have my sides cut. And because my sides are cut and those holes are actually spaced in the truss system that side actually creates, that the holes are actually spaced to where there is no, certainly there's not a foot of play on either end, you know, 6 inches. So I'm committed, and I'm okay with that. You know, hey, trial and error, rough draft, first draft, whatever you want to call it. So that's what I'm doing today. I've got 2 sheets of plywood queued up at the moment. I had just cut the 1/2 inch for length. Now I'll do it for width, and then I have the 1/2 inch or the 3/4 underneath, which will be my surface, and that has already been cut to length yesterday. I'm not quite sure. I think I needed the 1 foot rip to make the jig for the bottom, because I want the jig out of 3/4 stock. The bushing, or the template guide that I am using on my router, is one that it will not work on a 1/2 inch sheet of plywood if I use a 1/2 inch jig. It's just the depth of it is slightly over a 1/2 inch, and it may be a 1/2 inch exactly, but the plywood is less than a 1/2 inch. You know, it's more like 7/16, probably that metric number, 12 millimeter. And so it's just enough to where that 1/2 inch really is problematic. So 3/4 inch for jig, and I needed that strip. So I went ahead and ripped that. Today I'll rip it for width, because I'll have my rig set up while the rain holds off. And then since I have my template done, I will actually be able to do the hinge slots, and the bottom router access, which I went ahead and cut that out as well on the same jig actually. So I'll show that just a little bit later, but I'm going to go ahead and get these cut while the raindrops are holding off. And I'll check back in with you. I'll show you that jig that I created. Nothing special, but I'll show you what I've got anyway, just in case. Okay, next.